is currently past 12 in the morning. I've spent all day watching this, and allow me to give you my immediate reaction to it. What happened? That's literally my immediate reaction after I finished watching Season 2 of Daredevil. What happened? Why is this season the way that it is? Why is it such a huge, frustrating disappointment? Why did it drop off so hard from Season 1? And does this mean I'm going to be lowering my expectations exponentially for Season 3? Well, all this and more shall be explained to you in time. And this one, I'll give minor spoilers, but nothing really super major or anything. I'm not going to talk about, like, the name of the villain or what happens in the finale, stuff like that, no. I'm mainly just going to give you my basic thoughts and talk about a few characters from this season. So, with that out of the way, let me talk to you all about Daredevil Season 2 and why I think it is an absolutely frustrating, barely comprehensible mess that somehow is still not bad despite all its problems. What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to your music station, your numbers of animation, including TV and movies. I'm your host, Jasmine Small. Welcome to my review of Season 2 of Daredevil. I went into this season with super high expectations, and I came out the other side very disappointed. Now, this is why this season's so hard to talk about. Not only because, well, I just finished watching it, and not only because it's 12 in the morning, but also because it has, almost in completely equal measure, things I absolutely love about it, and things I absolutely hate about it. I'll do my best to try to explain it in this review, but if this summary feels a little bit scatterbrained, that's why, because this season literally left me scatterbrained by the time I was done with it, because it has so many great things and also so many outright terrible things. So, like I said, I'll try to keep the big spoilers out of it, but I may talk about little minor things, okay? Just a fair warning. So, without further ado or delay, let's get this filmed and done so that I can get sleep. That way I have energy to get through Season 3 tomorrow. Which means, yes, my review of the first 2 episodes of Born Again might have to be delayed, and I'm sorry, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. Here's my written review for Season 2 of Netflix's Daredevil. I hope you enjoy, and I hope it does a decent enough job summarizing up my thoughts on why this season was so disappointing. Most of the positives from last season are still present here, namely incredible acting and awesome brutal action. Those 2 things are still positives here, as well as all the characters from the previous season are still great here, Karen, Foggy, Matt, the priest, all those characters are still as great as they were last time. But it's got some new pros as well. The character development is expanded further, especially Karen's in particular, who I think actually had my favorite arc of the season, outside of a specific someone, which we'll get to. The writing's even sharper, at least in the first few episodes before it dives off cliff. Finale is once again spectacular. Most of this season is a contrived mess, but I will say that the finale actually did a good job wrapping up all its loose ends. And of course, its biggest plus, and the biggest reason why this second season of the show had me so excited, is Jon Bernthal's The Punisher. Now, let me give you a little bit of background about me. I am a huge fan of The Punisher. He has always been one of my favorite Marvel characters. I love the 2004 movie despite its problems. I have a soft spot for Punisher Warzone. I've read a bunch of the comics. I am a Punisher main in Marvel Rivals. I love Punisher, dude. He has always been one of my favorite characters in all of Marvel Comics, and seeing him in this show, especially portrayed in this amazing of a way, yeah, that had me very excited. Like, seriously, Punisher, he goes through a tragic yet incredibly compelling arc that not only does justice to the character, but also simultaneously ramps up the tension higher than it's ever been before. Like, the first few times I saw Punisher in this show, he was a legit menacing threat. But as the season went on, he slowly ended up becoming more of a interesting, complicated anti-hero. Kind of. It's a little hard to explain, but if you've seen the season, you understand what I'm talking about here. Those first 4 episodes that focused on him and his interactions with Daredevil were by far the biggest highlight. Like, those first 4 episodes had me thinking that this season could be even better than season 1. From the discussion on the rooftop to how both of them contrast with different ways to take down criminals and what's right and what's wrong. Like, all that stuff is incredible. Like, all that stuff in the first 4 episodes of the show, where Punisher is the focus and the main adversary to Matt Murdock's Daredevil, that is the peak of the season. When it focused on that, it was amazing and almost even better than season 1. And it's no wonder why he got himself his own spin-off show, which I will look at another time. I just don't have the time right now. I only have the time to get through these 3 seasons and Born Again, and that's pretty much it. I promise you, though, I will check out the Punisher show eventually. He is without a doubt the best addition yet. He is the best part of this season. Like, absolutely, without a single doubt. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Even when they showed him in the background, which we're about to talk about, he was still the best part of the season. Whenever he was on screen, he was menacing, he was malicious, he was badass, and he was also very, very fascinating. Like, by far the best part of this season is Jon Bernthal as the Punisher. By far the best part. But after those first 4 episodes focused on Punisher, it plummets hard, as he's quickly moved to the background in favor of Elektra. Now, let me be frank. I don't hate Elektra in the comics, right? I don't. I didn't hate her in the comics, and I didn't even hate her in that 2003 movie. I never hated the character. Until now. Because this version of the character is garbage. Like, everything about this character felt extremely wrong. Like, everything. Like, I can't even go into detail about why, because it's spoilers, but point is, it's awful. It's garbage. It's atrocious. It is like the weakest of weak character writing. Like, it is bad. It is very bad. I'm not going to mince words here. This version of her is terrible, as all she mainly does throughout the season is make Matt's life a living hell by dragging him into the sport he doesn't want to be a part of, and ending his blossoming relationship with Karen abruptly because of it, which is beyond infuriating when it ultimately amounts to nothing. Like, they started teasing about Matt and Karen becoming a couple, and I was buying it because these two have genuinely great chemistry with each other. Problem is, as soon as Elektra comes in, they immediately have to throw all that good relationship building out the window and force us into thinking that these two belong together. They don't. These two have no chemistry, despite the great acting from both sides. They have no chemistry. Most of the time, they are at each other's throats, just bickering and arguing. And so much of the time, it's just so back and forth, and it gets so infuriating. Because it's like, just kick her out, go back to Karen, explain the truth. Which he eventually does in the finale, but that's besides my point. And yes, it does ultimately amount to absolutely nothing, aside from padding the season out with absolute garbage. And the same goes for the district attorney that becomes the main antagonist of Matt Murdock and his law firm in the season 2. She was awful. I freaking hated her guts. I hated her every time she spoke. And that entire time, I just wanted to see Punisher or Matt or Nelson or somebody just punch her in the face. Like, she was so bad. And yeah, Elektra was somehow even worse than that. Then made worse by the awful story, which juggles way too much at one time and is filled to the brim with atrocious exposition dumping that gets very tiring very quickly. Like, the exposition dumping in this season is so atrocious that it would make Attack on Titan blush. It is awful. Like, so much of this season, after those first 4 episodes, is spent on just continuously dumping exposition over and over, even if it's crap that they have already expositioned about 2 or 3 episodes ago. It's so freaking tiring. Like, visual medium, show, don't tell. And all the things it tries to juggle, it fails almost every single one of those things. Like having this secondary plot, having this secondary villain, trying to have this rebuilt relationship with Elektra and Matt that doesn't feel genuine at all, feels forced and all kinds of stupid. The fallout of the Long Firm and Punisher, and like it does way too much. It does way too much, and it quickly becomes a huge problem. It felt like after the Punisher storyline was seemingly concluded in episode 4, they didn't have a single damn clue what they were doing. Add-on Fisk being seemingly a glorified cameo, like he's in this season but he barely does anything. And a horrible final villain that's beyond forced. And you have a convoluted, barely comprehensible mess of a plot that drags this season down tremendously. After how focused the last season was, this just makes this even more insulting. And I get it, there was probably stuff happening behind the scenes from what I've just gathered from the one review of this season I watched before making this review. But even with that, we have seen things that have trouble behind the scenes that still come out fine. But this, no. This is one of the worst examples of that, where you can clearly see influence at play here. And it sucks because it really could have made this season into something special had they actually given a damn. Like, after the first 4 episodes that did such a great job with the Punisher arc, it just fell off a freaking cliff. Like, I'm just gonna finish before I start screaming and ranting like a madman. It's full of so many bullet holes, yet it keeps walking regardless. Daredevil Season 2 is a confusing, convoluted, and very frustrating disappointment that saved from being worse thanks to the superb acting, and phenomenal addition of the Punisher. It is heavily flawed, and it is very poorly told, but what it gets right manages to balance it out to overall just decent. But by this show's standards, by what I expected after the masterpiece of Season 1, this was pretty damn lousy. It's a huge drop-off from Season 1, but it still is enough to be passable. It's worth one watch, but not worth going back to afterwards. Like, if you enjoy this season more than the other one because it's more traditional comic book, I can understand. But after watching Season 1, after how well that one was made and how focused it was and how well crafted and well told it was, this one just felt like a confusing, contrived corporate mess. But because it was actually able to get one thing right, it actually manages to somewhat save itself. Because trust me when I say, Punisher carries so much of this season. And whenever he's not on screen, and whenever Matt isn't on screen, it is a frustrating bore. From what I've heard, season 3 is supposed to be better, but I'm not gonna bother getting my hopes up until I actually see it. So, let's get to the final verdict now, shall we? My final verdict for Daredevil season 2 is a messy, convoluted, confusing, barely comprehensible, extremely disappointing, but not bad 6 out of 10. It's a 6. It is a decent season, it's an okay season, but it could have been so much more if its story and plot wasn't such a flaming dumpster fire. I was hoping I didn't have to get this almost completely negative, but this season, dude, this one was a drag to get through. And now, I don't know what to expect from season 3, but I hope it is something way better than this. Well, that's all I've got. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. I'm going to get this edited and out so I can go to sleep. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next review, which should be Daredevil Season 3, but we shall see. I'll see you next time. Take care.
Listen, I want to forget. So listen, and you won't regret. Be true to yourself, don't miss your chance, and you won't end up like the fool who ripped his pants.